Food and Fitness Week. We'll start over. Welcome, everyone. This is our very first Food and Fitness Week offering. My name is Marie. I am the account manager for the fitness teams through Exos at Intuit. And you're looking at Chef Jim, who is out of Mountain View with At Your Table. Hi. And we are going to talk about every day this week, Monday through Thursday. We're going to be on the call with the At Your Table team talking about some of their favorite or full meals at the different locations. And Chef is going to share one today, some blackened salmon, super delicious looking meal we can try at home. And then have some good conversations about why we chose these ingredients, what opportunities for maybe switching out and subbing out other ingredients if you have maybe a fish allergy. You can't have that. What other things might work out for these recipes. And then learn a little bit about the cooking styles. And just so you guys know, at the At Your Table team, we are so excited to do this partnership with you guys. And one of the things we did last week on our Slack channel was all of our different locations actually put out a poll to our membership asking people some good questions about how they cook things, what they like to cook. And so we just kind of have some cool knowledge from our members. And one of the questions was, what's your favorite protein to cook with? And luckily, a lot of people did say fish, so hopefully some of those folks are showing up today to hear about this delicious meal. But everything from, what kind of oils you cook with. So even talking about that might be a really great opportunity to talk to people about different types of oils that they could choose, and the different vegetables and prep that they like to use for cooking the different meals. So we have done as much due diligence as we can on our end as not really we enjoy food, but we're not the dietitians and we're not professional chefs. So hopefully you guys have a lot of amazing things to share with us. Okay, yes. So I will let Chef Jim jump in and start talking about the meal we're going to talk about today.
Yes, I'm not a doctor, but I play one on TV. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for having us. Very, very excited to get this partnership kicked off. My name is Jim Chapman, and I am the regional chef for the Intuit portfolio. And I'm very excited to be here. Been on the team for a little over a month, not including some of the quarantine time, and we were getting ready to do this kind of a partnership with the fitness team anyway. So I'm really excited that we're going to be able to kick it off in this format. Kind of learning as we go, so be patient with our technical challenges and whatnot. But I got some content to share with you guys. We're going to be covering lots of different subject matters this week, and you will hear from some of the other chefs that are on the Intuit team across the country in the coming days. And they're going to have similar but different subject matter to cover, and I'm sure everyone's going to have their own take on it. So there's going to be lots of great content for us to collectively share amongst all of our teams. So first thing I want to do is I want to pull up the Eat Right for Life kind of parameters that we're using and talk about that program a little bit. Can somebody... Bridget, give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen, please, so I can see you. All right, awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, so we have some guidelines that we follow for this program, and this is Intuit's wellness program that we are partnering with our client Intuit and delivering some of their asks when it comes to wellness in our cafe. So across the portfolio, we run Eat Right for Life specials every single day, depending on the size of the cafe. It could be at each station. I know in Mountain View, we actually have a dedicated station for Eat Right for Life, as well as at least 4 other specials throughout our stations in the cafe. So we have to follow these parameters. We have a wonderful recipe bank that we use to collect, to utilize these recipes that give us all the nutritional information. And then coming soon, we're actually going to have a registered dietitian on the team. So we can even take this to another level, as well as partnering with our fitness partners as well. So as you can see by the screen on the slide on the screen, I'm not going to read through every single thing, but I'll hit some high points on it. Eat Right for Life. We call it ERFL for short, and these are what these meals must contain. They can be any kind of protein or vegetarian, but we're looking at specifically measured portions to help us get as accurate as we can when it comes to nutritional information. At the very minimal, we're sharing calorie counts per serving. So each dish has a calorie count assigned to it, and we use our recipe bank to collect that information and share it with our guests. So these are our portioning standards for protein: 4 ounces, 4 ounces of starch. These are our sides here, so 4 ounces of vegetable. Each meal, across the portfolio, they're also a special price for the meal to give incentives. So for $2.99, you get this meal plus you can also get a piece of fruit or a small soup or a small cup of iced tea that's unsweetened and brewed in-house. So these all come with the meal. Such a great program that Intuit kind of promotes to keep folks eating healthy as possible, or at least that they have these options available. So you can see here on the left-hand side the acceptable proteins. Obviously, these are low-fat, in a lot of instances, types of protein, and then some awesome vegetarian or plant-based protein options as well. I know this is a modern era, so there's a lot more out there than maybe in the past when it comes to meat substitutes or plant-based proteins. We do use that in our cafes. Right now, we're really using the Beyond brand quite a bit. Lots of flexibility. We can make all kinds of different dishes that mimic maybe an animal-based protein, but instead of using a veggie-based protein here. So there's a list of different proteins that we're using, and then acceptable starches. When it comes to starches, there's lots of carbs, that are in most of these ingredients. So portioning is really key here. You want to make sure that you keep it to the 4 ounces or less to have this be a healthy part of this dish. And then the vegetables you see on the right-hand side, lots of great vegetables out there that support the wellness program. Obviously, cooking techniques, which we'll talk about in just a moment, are very important to making sure that these are prepared in a healthy way. Now, the way our recipes are kind of developed in our program to be able to get accurate calorie counts, a lot of these different components are recipeed out separately, and then we marry them together to create a dish. So as chefs writing these menus, we need to be really cognizant of the portion size to make sure that we're fitting into the Eat Right for Life parameters, and that every one of these meals has to be at or below 500 calories total. So again, portioning is the key here, and then following these guidelines as far as what we should and shouldn't be using. Some acceptable cooking methods. These are all low-fat type of cooking techniques where we can really, control or limit the amount of fat we're using, and then, using good fat that supports a wellness program, like different types of fruit or nut or different vegetable oils that we use. Grilling, baking, broiling, roasting, all acceptable. Poaching and steaming, two of my favorites, very healthy, let the ingredients shine from themselves. So we're just really given a whole meal. The thought process is that we're using the right cooking techniques to keep it healthy. As you can see here, we're only using different vegetable oils, canola or olive oils. Sometimes we have blends. If we're using nut oils, they are always called out on the recipe to be cognizant of any possible nut or tree nut allergies. And then we limit the amount of salt we're using in these recipes, so that we're not over seasoning. Let's go into one of our recipes here now. Bear with me. Let me pull it up. Hang on. We'll look at the salmon recipe first. Bridget, thumbs up if you can see it. See my recipe? Awesome. Thank you. Good job. My little partner in crime there. All right, thank you. So here's an example of what our recipe looks like. There's lots of data that goes behind these recipes. You can see there's 3 different menu items on this recipe that we're gonna, again, put them all together to give us one complete portion. There's different cooking techniques on here. So, if you look at these recipes, we can easily sub in different types of protein to fit the needs of the day. So maybe we ran salmon yesterday, but we really want to, use this recipe or this technique, but we're going to use chicken breast today. So it's very interchangeable. The cooking techniques, keeping it simple is usually the best rule when it comes to healthy cooking. So just, taking the ingredients and using them in their natural form, really no need to manipulate them or add a lot of things to them to make them taste great and be healthy and be beautiful meals. So you can see all the sub recipes that we have here that we use to follow. This recipe is portioned out for 4 servings, but you can see this tells us exactly how much we should be preparing, and then gives us some guidelines on serving portions here as well, as you can see at the bottom. So that way our teams that are on the front line can use these tools to portion these things out properly. Very simple, nice dry rub on the salmon. You can roast this, grill it, bake it. Again, the poaching and steaming works really well for me. I love the fact that we have these big steamers in the cafes, and we can, get a good amount of food going for our customers at the same time as cooking healthy. Okay. Again, very simple, minimalist, if you will, recipe. A little salt and pepper, a little fresh herbs, just a little bit of oil to glaze them, and then we can roast them in the oven. All right. Got one last slide to cover, and one second, and then we'll let the fitness trainers talk a little bit about some subject matter they have, and then Bridget, give me a thumbs up again when you can see it. Nevers, anything? Yes. Okay. Took a minute, guys. All right. Real fast. These are some of our nevers. So these are some guidelines that were set for us as well that we have to make sure that we follow. So we have all the things that we should be doing, but now we have some other rules to make sure. As you can see, any kind of frying, it adds excessive fat to the dish, so we're not doing that when it comes to these types of meals. Also, the amount of fat that comes from dairy can also add a lot of calories and fat to the meal. So we're staying away from these as much as possible, and again, using the vegetable and olive oils as our fat. But we're just kind of not using the cream or butter. If we're going to make parsnip puree, we're just going to steam the parsnip up, puree it up, maybe with a little bit of vegetable stock to give us the texture we want, but it's as simple as that, just keeping it natural. Excessive salt, so making sure that we're being cognizant of how much we're adjusting seasoning on the recipes. And then obviously the portion size we talked about a lot, very important. So you can see there's a couple more points here that we're using to make sure that we're providing the right parameters for these meals. But it gives us the opportunity to be creative with what we're doing as far as our menu offerings. But there's lots of data and lots of different sources that we can pull from to be able to fulfill the Eat Right for Life needs. And plugging in the different ingredients, whether it be seafood or poultry or vegetarian or plant-based options. There's so much that we can do to make good, healthy meals for everybody. And being creative when it comes to providing these meals really entices the folks to come back and try and make a healthy choice for lunch. So that's kind of what I had prepared as far as culinary wise. I'm going to open it up for our trainer partner to talk about fitness, and then we can answer any questions.
Thank you, Jim. That was awesome. So just to kind of dive a little bit back into the ingredient list, is there any tips or tricks that you could give us on if I was going to make this tonight? How would I make sure that I made it the way it's supposed to be prepared? Anything that you could share? Like, here's a question: what's in Cajun seasoning? I don't have Cajun seasoning at my house. Can I make a homemade Cajun seasoning?
That's a great question. You absolutely can make a homemade Cajun seasoning. There's tons of them on the market, but basically blackening spice kind of gives that Cajun flair. There's paprika in there. There's usually onion that's usually in a powder form, garlic. For a real true Cajun, you got to have some cayenne pepper in there too. I like to incorporate fresh herbs into mine when I make my own from scratch, so I usually dry my own fresh thyme, so I add a little thyme to it, and oregano as well. But yeah, there's different variations of it. I'm sure that if you hit Google or look at a place like Pinterest or something like that, you can come up with some inspiration to make your own dry rubs. But as far as preparing this meal at home, when I tell people that aren't professional cooks, I always say just find your comfort zone, and if you're not proficient enough in any certain area, then you look for a little education. So you find someone who can possibly teach you some different techniques. There's tons of content on the internet nowadays, but there's also local culinary schools, or if you happen to have a chef in the family, or just someone who knows how to cook well. My parents were not professionals, but they both cooked a lot, and I learned a ton from them before I actually grew up and went out and got some professional training. But yeah, just stick with what you know. If you like baking things, bake the salmon. Just follow the recipe as far as seasoning. But the best part about food and cooking is that it's flexible, and you can use inspiration from any different place to prepare wonderful meals for folks. So just don't be nervous about it. And like I said, stay in your comfort zone if you want to learn more, you want to increase your knowledge, there's lots of different ways to do that.
Awesome. And I have another question for you. I know right now when I go to my grocery stores, it's actually really hard to get fresh fish. Like the fishmonger section is kind of like shut down. So to get the frozen fish, is there anything in particular that you would do different, like to ensure the frozen fish retain that same flavor that you get with the fresh fish to make before you even prepare your meal?
Yeah, in our cafes, we're using fresh fish the majority of the time. I'd say 90% of the time in the cafes, we're using fresh.
Awesome.
But at home, great question. I prefer not to purchase frozen fish myself. But sometimes when I get a good deal on fresh fish, I'll freeze it at home. One tip that I like to share with everybody is a very inexpensive tool, but a vacuum saver or a food saver really helps protect the delicate fish in the freezer from getting freezer burn. But as far as cooking and preparing, to your point, there's not a lot out there except in the freezer. I like to use a moist cooking method when cooking frozen fish, and that's where the poaching and the steaming comes in. At home, I've got a simple bamboo basket, like, you kind of see at dim sum places. I use it all the time. I poach chicken breast in there, salmon in there, shrimp, as well as a variety of different vegetables, and it's just as easy as putting the basket over a pot of water, boiling on your stove, and cooking it for like 15 minutes to make sure it's cooked all the way through, and then seasoning it with something as simple as a good flavor, olive oil, and some lemon juice. I like a little fresh cracked pepper on mine. But yeah, I like a moist cooking method when it comes to cooking frozen fish from the supermarket. My only other tip for that is if you're going to sear it or grill it, you need to make sure that you defrost it all the way under refrigeration to be safe from bacteria, but also you want as much of that liquid to release from the frozen state as possible before you go ahead and cook it, so that way it doesn't stick in your pan or on your grill. If it's not defrosted properly, there's a good chance you're going to cook the outside and they'll still be raw on the inside. So my pro tips are moist cooking methods and defrosting fully for all the others.
Yeah. Cool. That's really good. I've always wanted to learn to cook with one of those bamboo things. It seems so intimidating to me, but that's
so easy.
So fun.
Yeah, you can buy dim sum at Trader Joe's now, and you pop it in those steamers. It's just like you're going to a dim sum restaurant. It's really, really a difference in technique versus. Yeah.
Let me actually share my screen real quick because I do have the recipe that you guys sent me, which is kind of like, as not a professional chef, maybe looks more normal as far as like what I'd see when I look online. Can everyone see my screen right now? If you are watching, are you able to see it, Jim? Okay, perfect.
Yep.
So if I was to use one of those steamer baskets, would I steam it partially from the frozen version? Let's say that's all I could get. And then would I still, so the Cajun seasoning, I think the preparation for the salmon was like, then heat the skillet and like finish like a couple of minutes. Do I still do that same process then after I've steamed it to get the blackened seasonings on there, or do I just sprinkle blackened seasonings on it after I steam it?
Great question. Yeah, I mean, no, it's perfect.
Okay.
It does.
Great.
When you're using dry seasonings, you want to incorporate some sort of moisture into the cooking process. So whether you're searing it in a little bit of vegetable oil in a pan, that kind of wakes up the dry ingredients. So the steam will do the exact same thing. So I would make sure if I was going to steam this versus doing the pan sear or grilling method here, I would make sure that I defrosted it fully. Again, it's all about cooking it evenly throughout the piece of protein. So if it's frozen in the middle, you're still going to steam the outside and have it undercooked in the middle. So defrosting it fully is very important. But as far as the steamer and your question about the spice, no, I would put it in my steamer basket. I'd put my Cajun spice on it. I'd put a couple lemon slices on it even, and then I would steam it fully, and then you can serve it right from there. Not to say that you can't sear it afterwards. You absolutely can, but for the ultimate in health and wellness, I would just avoid the searing part and just eat it poached or steamed just like that.
Yeah. That's awesome. Okay. And I know the ingredient list that you guys have in here is chock full of so many amazing health benefits. So whether you're just trying to eat mindfully or you're trying to eat to prepare for from, maybe our members, the next workout you have in your day, or even I have an 8-month-old son, so I'm like bending over and getting him a lot. And he's learning to crawl. So like I'm constantly like moving around and doing stuff. So you're eating to prepare for that. The different ingredients you guys have are just, like I said, chock full of amazing nutrients, health benefits, various things. And is that common? Like all the recipes we're going to see the rest of the week, do you always have that mindset of, making sure the ingredient list is nutrient dense or has some kind of health benefits along with it? And can you talk a little bit about the different ingredients you choose for these recipes to ensure that maybe they are kind of aligning to a healthful note?
Yeah, absolutely. In its plainest form, when you're thinking about a dish, you're talking about a protein, and then, generally there's 2 accompaniments, one of them being a starch, one of them being a vegetable. So when I'm thinking about writing these recipes, I don't want fried chicken with mashed potatoes and green beans smothered in mushroom gravy. However, I could do, a roasted or grilled chicken breast with just steamed sweet potatoes that I mash up. And then either a quick saute or a quick run in the steamer for some green beans. So you got the same general 3 components there. Sweet potatoes, packed full of great stuff. The healthy cooking technique when it comes to the green beans versus that delicious one that's smothered in mushroom gravy. To make it more healthful, we're gonna keep the cooking technique simple and let the green beans stand on their own. And then, obviously fried chicken versus roasting or grilling a nice lean piece of chicken breast. But I'm looking at that dish thinking, where's my inspiration here and how can I make it healthful? So, again, for starch options, if I'm going to be serving rice or grains that it could be carb heavy, making sure I'm portioning them properly. But there's also lots of other things, in our repertoire that we can use as the starch or the base. It doesn't necessarily have to be potatoes or rice all the time. Me personally, I like to use legumes, grains, lentils, different types of grains like bulgur or quinoa as my quote unquote starch for the day. Again, it's packed with all those great nutrients. Healthy cooking technique is because you're poaching or steaming that versus maybe fried potato wedges or something like that. So I try and keep health and wellness in mind, not just with the ingredients, but the cooking technique is very important also.
Fantastic. Yeah, we love bulgur in my house as well. My husband is the cook here.
Nice.
And he cooks a lot with the bulgur, and he usually will add some like seasonings into the liquid that we boil it in so that it kind of imparts the flavor into the bulgur to help. Yeah, it's amazing. So if you guys haven't tried bulgur, totally try it. Give it a shot. It's not scary. But let me then open it up. We have a few minutes, maybe 3 or 4 minutes left. So I don't know if anyone on the call has any questions either about the recipe or just for Chef Jem or anything that they'd like to ask while you have the expert here.
Fire away. Apple cider vinegar and water. Good energy. Good for your digestive system. And it's tasty.
Yeah.
Got to stay hydrated.
It is good for you. Definitely keeps you healthy. Add some fruit in there too. Haley, I know you're on the call as well. Did you have anything to add in as far as from the Exos team?
I did have a few more questions. First is, what do you know about different cooking methods and conserving the nutrients within the food? Because I've heard plenty of things saying that if you blend your food in the blender, then the heat causes the nutrients to kind of go away. So do you know anything about that subject?
A little bit. Yeah, I'm not a dietitian, but I know in learning throughout the years, as far as the blender thing, I've heard that too, because I was really big on smoothies for a while, where I was throwing like pretty much, a spinach salad in a blender and drinking it. And I thought it was just an easy way for me to make sure I'm getting my greens and whatnot. But I did hear a podcast once, and they were talking with an expert about digestion and how our body absorbs nutrients. And one thing I learned that I'll share with you guys today is that when you actually chew your food, the saliva that's created in your mouth to help process the food to, get that stuff into your body actually helps in digestion and breaking the food down. Whereas if you just puree everything together and you just, you slurp it down, you're not creating that saliva, which is so necessary in the digestion of the food. I didn't know that. I just figured it was, getting everything in my belly and then it'll work from there. But who knew that the process starts in your mouth? As far as like preserving nutrients and the cooking techniques, I do know that if you overcook something, you're releasing the nutrients, into the cooking method versus keeping it in the food. Hence, why keeping it simple is so important when it comes to nutritional eating. So those cooking techniques are usually very short or just enough to cook the product properly, but without overcooking it is an important way to retain the nutrients.
Gotcha. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I've heard something like that. And I know if other folks on the call have other questions regarding something like that, but I know that when we steam, we have like a little steamer for our kid, and like you steam the vegetables. We like parsnips a lot as well. I feel like you and I are like food destined, bulgur and parsnips.
Yeah.
We steam parsnips up for him, and the water turns like, I will. turns like a color, like it will turn the color of the parsnip. And so you look at that and you're like, oh man, what's down in there is maybe a bunch of the nutrients kind of hanging out in that water. So I know like a lot of times we'll try and incorporate the water back into whatever meal we are some way, just because we're also not dietitians. Because then you can also, you haven't lost anything then except for what's evaporated out. And so perhaps that's, Haley, I don't know. Again, not dietitians, but one thing we can food geek out on is maybe talking about the different prep methods and how to retain the best health from the different food types.
Yeah, I know it has to do with the cell structure of the food, that when it's opened up for too long, it leaks out, basically. So.
Yeah. Well, okay, so we are at our time, so I will open up one more time for questions just in case someone has a quick one in the next minute or two. So I'll go quiet. You have like 15 seconds.
Thanks for having me today, everybody.
Yeah. Okay, so if there is any other questions that come through after this, please feel free to let us know. We'll make sure you guys have a recording available. You can come back and listen to this anytime. Check out that recipe that will be available to everybody as well, either in our newsletter, but from the Exos Fitness team, or we will also post it on Slack and in the Quarantine Cookie, and make sure you guys have access to all the great stuff from the At Your Table team. Thank you, Jim.
All right.
Appreciate
now everybody go
today.
for a walk. Get some exercise.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
You bet. All right, no problem.
Bye-bye.
Anytime. Talk to you guys soon. Take care. Thanks, everybody.